Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. We want to welcome our friends in South Africa, the United States, and around the world to this week's edition of A Conversation with El-Hajj Mauri Saalakhan. I'm pleased to be your host, coming to you once again through the Salam Media platform out of Johannesburg, South Africa. Salam Media is an online portal for humanitarian journalism. We don't just report the news. We advise you on what you can do about it. Today's thought-provoking conversation will be centered around the topic, the Democratic National Convention, Muslim American Perspectives. Now, before we introduce our guests for today's program, let's see a little piece of very important video. Let's see the first video, my brother.
Tomorrow, all eyes will be on Chicago. The Democratic National Convention kicks off, and this morning, the party released their roster of primetime speakers. In addition to Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Walz, Bill and Hillary Clinton, Barack and Michelle Obama, many others will be taking this stage at the United Center. Harris and Walz joined forces in Pennsylvania today to kick off a bus tour, and they did so in a race that polls continue to show has shifted in the Democrats' favor since Biden dropped out and the party rallied around Harris. The latest being this one from the Washington Post and ABC, showing Harris with a 4-point lead. And yes, that is within the margin of error. Now, the emergence of Harris and the selection of Walz as her running mate has breathed new life into the Democratic Party, and it has undoubtedly injected supporters with excitement, with hope, and even, yes, joy. But she is still in a neck-and-neck race with a convicted felon who tried to violently overturn our democracy. So the stakes of this convention could not be higher. In her first few weeks as the Democratic nominee, Harris has already proven herself capable of making big and bold decisions. When most Democratic strategists, for example, wanted her to pick a running mate with the pundit-approved label of a centrist or moderate, she didn't. She went her own way and selected Walz, who has successfully passed a progressive populist agenda as governor. And this week, knowing that Republicans stood ready to label her as a socialist or even a communist, she unveiled a populist economic agenda, including a plan to combat price gouging by grocery store chains. But there's one issue where she has not yet displayed this boldness or this willingness to confront powerful interests. And it is the same issue that had sunk Joe Biden in the polls long before his disastrous debate performance. As Farrah Stockman wrote in the New York Times, there is perhaps no issue that divides the Democratic Party more than the U.S. government's support for Israel's retaliation following the brutal attack by Hamas on October 7th. If the Harris campaign is unable to address this thorny issue in a way that feels like substance, then Democrats may not get the unity they'll need to win in November. And the key word here is substance. Harris has already proven adept at showing more compassion and empathy towards Palestinians, more than Joe Biden, who came across as cold, cruel, and clueless. But that bar is extremely low, and empty slogans won't bring back the more than 40,000 Palestinians, including more than 16,000 children who have now been killed by the Israeli military in less than 10 months. The American position on Palestine can't be I feel your pain, while at the same time being the country supplying the bombs that is causing that pain. And that's why more than 150 groups nationwide have joined a coalition to march at the DNC, with estimates that tens of thousands will be there to protest. How Harris and the Democrats deal with this, not just the protests on the outside themselves, but the substance, the core of this issue, may be her biggest test heading into Chicago. The stakes could not be any higher.
We couldn't have started with a better introduction. The DNC convention is now over. Ended just a couple of days ago. We have with us two very special guests that will walk us through what happened because they were there. Let's begin today's conversation with these two guests. Both are college professors and political activists in their own right. We want to introduce to the audience our sister who's been with us on a couple of other occasions, Dr. Nadia B. Ahmad, and our guest, Brother Esam. Is it Boraey, Aki? Is it Boraey or Borea?
It's Boraey.
Boraey.
Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Welcome to today's conversation. It's really a pleasure to have the two of you on. Let's begin this conversation with the two of you, first of all, sharing a little bit about yourselves. And then we'd like for you to share some thoughts on what for you were the highlights of this DNC convention, and what are the challenges going forward. Let's start with you, Sister Nadia.
Okay, thank you. Assalamu alaikum. So this was my first in-person convention. I wasn't really sure what to exactly expect, but I thought I would go to the council meetings, the caucus meetings, and to the convention. We wanted to participate in some type of action, but it was a little bit different than what I planned and intended, because one of the actions that we had planned ended up turning violent. So I ended up having to go file a police report because I got a concussion, and then I also had to go visit a doctor and also go to court to try to get a no contact order. So it was very different from what I thought it would be, and I don't think it had to be that way. But I think I shouldn't be surprised, because the Democratic Party has shown time and time again that it doesn't value the voices of Muslim, Arab, and Palestinian Democrats.
And for those who may not have caught the previous broadcast that you joined me on, a little bit about yourself, Nadia.
Yeah, and so I was born and raised in Orlando, Florida, to parents from India and Pakistan. I've been involved in different types of political organizing since middle school. I know Brother Mauri from the Afia Siddiqui campaign, and also the Imam Jamil Al-Amin campaign as well. So work with political prisoners. And what we have found is that there is always a lot of work that needs to be done, and there's different tactics in terms of ways to do it. So for me, it was important to get involved with the political process, to be involved with voter mobilization efforts. I'm also a law professor. I teach environmental and energy law as well as property.
And sister, before we go to Brother Esam, you were assaulted at the convention. Share with us what actually happened.
Yeah, so we felt that the Biden administration needed to be called to account. There was different ways that we could go about doing that, and so we decided with Brother Esam, and also with Brother Liana Sharon, who's a Jewish delegate from Michigan, that we were going to hold up a banner that says "Stop Arming Israel," and we were really calling for peace by saying that shouldn't be arming and providing military aid without conditioning it on human rights adherence. And as a result of that, they tried to block the sign by putting up other "We Love Joe Biden" signs, and then the labor union booth that was located behind us, the UNO, they actually started beating me. Through about 3 men beat me on the head with these "We Love Joe Biden" signs, and then another 2 of them kind of violently grabbed these the poster or banner that we were holding from our hands.
SubhanAllah. And you were able to identify the men who assaulted you, and charges have been filed?
Yes, I filed a police report. The legal process is a little bit more like time consuming in term because I'm out of state and they're out of state as well. But I did also request that a warrant or summons be issued, and that's something I've never really been through the criminal justice process. So that was also something that was new for me in trying to have to go through it as a victim of an assault and battery without much support.
Okay. Brother Sam, introduce yourself, Aki, just a little bit about yourself and what brought you to the convention and your thoughts, your initial thoughts on what you experienced, what you witnessed and what you experienced.
Sure. Thank you for having me today, and nice to see you again, Nadia. So my name is Esam Boraey, and I'm a DNC delegate to represent the state of Connecticut within the DNC convention. And this is why I have been in Chicago to attend the convention in Chicago. And since the first moment that we know that we were selected or elected as delegates, the organizing effort started immediately to try to understand what will be the position of the Palestinian issue, the most pressing issue in our time, in our time now. And we noticed that there will be a lot of absence of discussion over this issue. So we decided to raise that concern within the party process throughout the delegation experience, and we helped to frame and write some language that to be included within the party platform during the convention, and also we tried to have multiple discussions within the party and the delegation process as well. However, though, most of our efforts were really met with ignoring what we were doing, and we really didn't find any listening ears to our concerns. So we really decided to do something within the convention, since this is the last opportunity that as Democrats we can come together and discuss policies and discuss our own issues before November. And we really wanted to do this in terms of Biden speech, because he is the current president. He's been the leading force in shaping U.S. foreign policy, especially when it comes to Gaza and Middle East, since this issue has started on October 7 and beyond that. So again, and it's a very personal issue for me. Because I was born and raised in Egypt. I grew up in Egypt, and I was a political activist and a human rights activist in Egypt. My time there, I did work for national and international organizations that support and advocate for human rights. And I was part of the youth movement in Egypt that led to the Egyptian revolution. And I was thinking of the former President Mubarak. And then I was also one of the organizers and co-founders of one of the political parties back in Egypt, and I was preparing to run for an office back in Egypt when the military government, the Egyptian military government, raided my office, arrested me, and I was sent to the trial on a criminal court for 18 months. And during that time, we've tried many times to make sure to lobby and advocate for the American government to stop strengthening the military government in Egypt, stop aiding the military government in Egypt, stop sending weapons to the military government in Egypt, because I know firsthand, as a victim of that military government, I know firsthand what does American support mean to those authoritarian regimes in power. And now when this issue came up, I have noticed and I witnessed the same exact pattern being repeated by the American government toward yet another issue in the Middle East with yet another right-wing government in Israel with the Netanyahu regime. So I felt some of confusion and some of the misunderstanding of, if we're really pushing for a ceasefire, how come this fire will become reality? At the same time, we're sending them weapons on daily basis, and we keep pushing and declaring strongly that our financial and military support will never stop, change, or decrease. So that equation didn't sit quite well with me. So I Nadia and I think, and Liano and other activists decided to take a public stand against this policy and really trying to make Democrats really sincerely think of, if we do really believe in ceasefire, sending weapons is sending weapons the best way and the best strategy to leverage our strength as a strong ally. And I think we did our best, and I believe they did hear our voices, given all of the barriers and troubles that we had to suffer after our action. So I'm positive they heard our voice and our noises, but I doubt that we had any impact on the outcomes of the convention.
You may not have had impact on the outcome, but you definitely had some impact, brother, on the convention itself. You had impact on the discourse that's come out of the convention, and I thank you and Nadia and all of the other activists who weighed in the manner that you did. It took courage, it took determination, it took a level of sacrifice, and I'm quite certain that it made a difference. Now, with that being said, we're going to take a commercial break. And Brother Sadiq, when we come back from the commercial break, I want you to immediately show the democracy, that piece of Democracy Now! Video that we have. Show that coming out of the commercial, please. We'll be right back.
In the Eastern Cape, a single mother and her 3 daughters face a week without food. Last year, 15,000 children were hospitalized for severe malnutrition. With a 60% unemployment rate, the crisis deepens. But you can light the way. This Ramadan, your support can turn despair into hope. The El-Fida Foundation is on the ground providing vital aid. Join us in the fight against hunger and use your zakat to feed Muslim families in Gqeberha and rural Eastern Cape. Send us an email at elfida@telkomsa.net or contact us at 041-484-1288 for Section 18A tax certificates or enquiries. The El-Fida Foundation, together turning compassion into action.
Hey, Gulam.
Yeah?
Did I return your lawnmower last month?
No, bhai, you didn't.
Oh, no. Now what'll I do? I wanted to borrow it again, man.
With Randry Jewelers, you won't have to borrow or lend because the prices are so well trimmed on all gold and diamond jewelry. Alternatively, we could remake your old jewelry into a brilliant new design. Visit Randry Jewelers at 151 Stevens Lamini Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randry Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, bakkies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, War, Peace, and the Presidency, Breaking with Convention. I'm Amy Goodman, here with Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. On Monday night, President Biden headlined the opening night of the Democratic National Convention. A few minutes into his remarks, 3 delegates unfurled a banner that read, "Stop Arming Israel." The action took place where the Florida delegation was sitting. While some other delegates snatched the banner away, many delegates quickly raised Joe Biden placards that read, "Thank you, Joe," and "I love Joe," to block any view of the banner. More and more of those placards were brought out to cover the banner as much as possible. The protesting delegates who unfurled that banner were quickly escorted from the convention floor by security. Democracy Now! Was nearby when it happened.
What's your name, sir? Sir, what's your name?
My name's Leano Sharon. I'm a DNC delegate from Michigan.
And what did you do today?
Today we held up a sign protesting the murder of children in Gaza and the continuing genocide.
Watch your step, watch your step. What did the sign say?
It said, stop arming Israel.
All right, thank you. Let's keep it going. We'll watch out get into the tunnel. Let's get into the tunnel. You can interview him in the tunnel, okay?
And what happened
I just don't want you to break your ankles.
Then the people behind us grabbed a hold of the sign and tried to rip it out of our hands several times. Eventually, they succeeded.
Interview in the hall, okay? Let's get him down. Come on. All right, thanks for being cooperative, sir.
Yeah,
okay.
No problem.
Thank you.
And why did you do it?
I did that because we are currently funding a genocide, and it needs to stop. And also, I want to make it clear to the Harris campaign that this is actually in their interest. Okay. Netanyahu is trying to instigate a larger war so he could remain in power and avoid going to prison. In order to move Netanyahu off of his current position of trying to expand the war in order to stay in power and remain out of jail, we believe that the U.S. needs to stop arming Israel. It needs to have an embargo against their genocide. Otherwise, Netanyahu doesn't have the incentive to stop the genocide, to stop the mass murder.
Why does this matter to you so much?
It matters to me so much because I'm a Jew, and I was always brought up to believe that never again means never again for anyone, anywhere, ever, period. And that's not what's happening right now. What's happening right now is that we are continuing to fund and support an ongoing genocide, the mass murder of children, and it needs to stop.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Now, for those of you who may be just joining us, our topic for today is the recently concluded Democratic National Convention, Muslim American Perspectives. And the guests for today's conversation are our sister Nadia Ahmad and our brother Esam Boraey. Walk us through what happened after you were removed from that main floor. Sister Nadia, what happened when you were removed?
But I think a bunch of people called me and said you were kicked out. I was like, I wasn't actually kicked out of the DNC. And actually, the reason why Leano left was he wasn't actually removed either. The reason he left was because he wanted to talk to the media, and the media wanted to talk to him, and the police officers felt that it would be unsafe because the reporters had their back to him and to the floor, and so it was just unsafe. So that's why they really wanted him to leave, but they didn't really ask. They asked him to leave, and they definitely didn't remove me. I just stood there for a while. Esam also stood there. Like, they didn't do anything to us. They had taken away the sign at that point, so we just stood there. And then what happened was we stood there for like a few more minutes, and then we thought we really didn't want to hear Joe Biden speak, and then we just left on our own.
Mm-hmm. And Brother Esam, your thoughts now, your afterthoughts. A little time has passed. You know, one of the things that stood out for me, a veteran of these kinds of activist confrontations that we sometimes have with police, is how polite that officer was that was leading the Jewish protester out. How polite he was to him. Usually, you know, when it comes to these kinds of confrontations, the police, they can often be very, very brusque and sometimes, you know, violent, both in speech and in actions. You know, but
actually, you're absolutely right. And this politeness did not continue once we left the floor, because it didn't. Now, especially for this officer, and the as I was watching now, I'm really intrigued. I really want to identify that person and know his name, because what happened after that was not polite. It was very intimidating and very violent, especially verbally. So what happened as Leano was leaving, and the media, all of the media followed Leano. I asked Sister Nadia if she wanted to leave, and she wanted to stay. And I was really nervous because, again, I saw Sister Nadia being beaten on her head with a stick from the top, this big 6-foot guy who's literally beating her on her head. So I was really, and the two of us were literally in the middle of an island of people who were really, all of them, hating us for what we did. So I was really careful to make sure that Sister Nadia is protected and no one is going to continue any physical abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked her to go out, and she said, let's wait for a couple of minutes. And then she decided we could go. Then I agreed with her, and we voluntarily left. Then after we came outside, I found Leano talking to the press and all of those officers surrounding him. So I went immediately to stand next to him and make sure he's also protected, because Sister Nadia had to go to a different place. And then the same officer came to me and said, "Are you with him?" And I said, "Yes, he's my friend." And he said, "Okay, you need to make him shut up and leave immediately." So I politely told him, "Hi, my name is Esam. I'm a delegate from Connecticut. Can I know who I'm talking to?" And he said, "This is not your business. Just let your friend to shut up and leave." So I told him, "But he's talking to the media, and journalists are asking him questions. So what's the problem here?" And he said, he leaned at me, whispered in my ears, and said, "You do not run shit. I'm telling you to leave. You need to cut this and leave." So at this point, I start raising my voice, and I think some of the cameras got that interactions. So I start raising my voice, and I said, "Unless I know who I'm talking to, I'm not going to respond to you. My friend is doing nothing wrong, and he's just we have the right to be here as delegates, and the guy is expressing his freedom of speech by answering questions with the journalists. So we're not doing anything wrong, and we were not leaving." He gave me this like burning look that I'm coming for you, or I'm doing something horrible or something. And then he moved a few steps away and sent one of his colleagues that started filming us, Liano and I, and then he started zooming so deep into our names to get our names at the time. And then I remember very well, we have pins that had our names on it, so I did pull away my name tag and put it away, just not to show my name. And then there was another journalist who came and asked us for our names, and I said to her, I'm not giving my names. I don't know what happened in my computer, I'm sorry. So I said, "I'm not giving you my name," and she said, like, "What?" I told her, like, "You witnessed an officer intimidating me to leave away, so I don't feel comfortable sharing our names in front of him. I'm happy to give you my name a little bit. I know giving my name is a silly thing, but I just wanted to make sure that he knows I'm not going to be intimidated by him or just do whatever he tells me because he asked me to do so." So I just want to echo your sentiment about usually the police is not very polite. So he was only polite on the convention floor when the cameras was so on us. But once we went outside and the camera focus was not that much on us, the real face, the true face really came out.
When the threats began. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'd like for the two of you to reflect on what you considered to be, an important takeaway. What the most important takeaway from that confrontation that you had in the main hall, and also what I'd like for you to do is expound on how you feel about the DNC's decision, and if there were any discussions that you were privy to leading up to that decision to not allow a Palestinian voice to be heard on the main stage. Nadia.
I wasn't privy to those discussions, and I wasn't part of them. I know back in December, I'd met with several delegates from 2020 before, who DNC delegates, and we had met with a few people from the DNC, and that was the first time any of them had really had a conversation with anybody at the DNC. Each person spoke for 3 to 4 minutes, said what they had to say, were very clear and unapologetic. And at the end, we said, I specifically remember saying that I'm not in a position to support the president, and that was the end of that conversation. And then I had really no contact with them at all, because I knew what they were doing, and if they wanted to do something, that they would make right. And then what we saw happening to us at the convention, it's as if they just didn't want, they wanted us to be there, but not really say or do anything. And our group had really just dropped to 3. And then there was 3 people or so that were also kind of as buffers as well that left. And so we had a few others that were part of it. But I think that that the way the intimidation worked within the party, that people who were part of it, then they dropped out, is really telling that the repercussions are real in the way that they try to intimidate people. But that's really why we can't back down. That's why we have to stand up and speak up more. And what someone had told me later on was that the reason why they didn't want to have a Palestinian speaker was because the reaction would have been so negative from those that were a part of the convention, that would have actually been bad for the optics to have a speaker. And then I also thought that there's no way they would have a speaker, because that would essentially admit that they were allowing for this genocide to happen.
Mm-hmm. Interesting point. Your thoughts on the same question, Brother Esam?
I agree with Sister Nadia for her, and it's very disappointing and very concerning, and just strongly shows the one-sided approach to this topic. And I just want to also raise another issue here. Like, we appreciate the fact that the campaign now has a Muslim liaison and like they have a title, but really the vast majority of the Muslim community, or at least the vast majority of the Muslim community members that I did talk to, or I have been having conversations with, we all have this feeling that this is not the purpose of that office is not to serve the Muslim community. The mission of that position is to get the Muslim community in line, even if nothing of their, especially when nothing of their demands were met. So it's not the, and this is very hurtful and very concerning, because, as Sister Nadia said, we're only here just because we will be good to be used as tools or to make the picture look more diverse, but we're not allowed to have a serious impact, which is very concerning, and especially many of us who truly believe in the values and the principles of the Democratic Party, and we're hoping to have a serious discussion and meaningful discussion within the party. I think I've said this before, and it was very clear to us during that process of the convention that we're should be grateful to be here. And I remember very well one of the delegates, one of my fellow delegates from Connecticut, who had this conversation with me after our protest. And this person was really against what I did. And the idea or the objective, the reasoning of this person was really upset. I don't want to reveal any personal information about this person, but the idea was like, I should be grateful that the party gave me the chance to be part of this historical moment. Mm-hmm. And I should, because of that, I should just sit and enjoy. And that was really, really hurtful. It's like, I should be grateful for the crumbs of just being there, which is, as we all know, like, you know, it's really not, it's not the best approach. I know this person does not represent the party, does not represent the establishment, but that sentiment seems very present within the literature and the rhetoric that we get as Muslim delegates and Muslim representatives within the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. So I'm coming from the convention very disappointed and less hopeful than I was before I go and participate in the convention.
Mm-hmm. I would encourage you, my brother, to remain optimistic and to not shortchange what you all leading up to the convention and through the convention were able to accomplish, because you actually did accomplish something quite significant. And you know, the full weight of it is something that it may take you a little bit of time to realize, but let me assure you, you did accomplish something quite significant. We're going to go to another break, and then after the break, there is one more video. There's a third video that I want us to see, and this video, it kind of underscores the point that I just made about you all having really made more of an impact than you may realize. Let's go ahead to the commercial break, Brother Sadiq.
Local and international investment and advisory services from an award-winning firm? Look no further than the Belmont Mayer Group, your gateway to unparalleled investment and wealth management. At Belmont Mayer, we believe in the art of wealth creation, a meticulous process fueled by our unwavering commitment to excellence. With a focus on providing elite alternative investments and quality advice, we also pride ourselves on maximizing value for our esteemed investors, as seen through our consistent outperformance. Your financial success is our top priority. Join us at Belmont Mayer and experience the difference firsthand. Ready to embark on a journey of greatness? Contact us today. Reach out to the Belmont Mayer Group on 078-786-1698. Call or WhatsApp or email us at info@belmontmayer.com. Elevate your financial future with Belmont Mayer, where every detail matters.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al-Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al-Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al-Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041-583-6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
For the first time, I can dream again.
The Africa Muslims Agency Orphan Hope Program provides the food, clothing, and basic support needed by thousands of children across the world. Every child deserves a chance at a hopeful future.
For 50,000 trans, you can transform our lives with the AMA Orphan Hope Program.
Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Dad, these Frymax chips are so tasty. Wow, that really takes me back. My dad bought me a Frymax chips every day after school. They were my favorite when I was your age as well. Quality is at the very heart of what we do, and that's why we ensure that every Frymax packet is filled with the beautiful goodness and flavor-packed taste that you've come to expect from us since 1982. Frymax, from generation to generation.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, buckies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. War, Peace, and the Presidency, breaking with convention. I'm Amy Goodman here in Chicago with Juan Gonzalez.
Well, the opening day of the Democratic Convention on Monday featured the first ever panel on Palestinian human rights at the DNC. The panel was announced just a day earlier and came after persistent grassroots organizing against U.S. support for Israel's assault on Gaza.
The panel was moderated by Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and featured former Michigan Congressmember Andy Levin, Hala Hijazi, a Democratic organizer and fundraiser who's had over 100 family members killed in Gaza, Dr. Tanya Hashassan, a pediatric intensive care surgeon who served in Gaza many times, Leila El-Abed, the co-chair of the Uncommitted Movement, and James Zogby, a former longtime executive member of the Democratic National Committee and the founder of the Arab American Institute. Zogby began by speaking about the significance of the first ever panel on Palestinian rights being held at the DNC.
I have been doing this for most of my life, like 50 years. And I remember when we couldn't get the issue of Palestine discussed at the Coalition for a New Foreign and Military Policy. That was all the left groups, because they said if you let the Arabs in, we'll lose our credibility. And when the anniversary of Dr. King's march happened, again, we were invited to be on the steering committee, and they said, if you let the Arabs in, it'll hurt our credibility. And so we were asked to leave. And Jesse Jackson made all the difference in the world because he elevated the issue, and he elevated those of us who raised the issue. And the last two times, the only two times that the word Palestine was mentioned at a Democratic convention was 1984, 1988 with Jesse Jackson, when he spoke in his speech about it, and he invited me first to give him a nominating speech where I talked about justice for Palestinians, and then in '88 we had a platform fight, an actual platform debate from the podium of the convention on justice for Palestinians. So we've come a long way. People say to me, well, you're just being optimistic. You're just saying, you know, the cup is half full. I say, no, I remember when we didn't have a cup. And we are now with a cup and filling it up. So when I look at this panel today, it is not the prize. The prize is a change in policy. That's the prize. But what's historic here is that we are having an officially sanctioned panel to talk about it. Like I said, it's not the main prize. It's not the big prize. But it is something I do not want to dismiss for a minute as to how significant this is, about what message the Harris campaign is sending by saying, we want to talk about this and hear you talk about it. And so I've heard some grumbling, you know. I quote Willie Barrow, a friend of mine from the Jackson campaign in the 80s, who said, we ain't never been here before. She'd say, we ain't never been here before. We've never had this forum before. And it is not, like I said, the end. It's the beginning of a process. And the difference is, and I told this to Layla and Abbas last night, that when we raised it in '84 and '88, we did so because Jesse Jackson enabled us. It was a top-down. There were people in our Jackson coalition who were, Reverend, you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to talk about this? He said, damn it, I'm doing it. I've been doing it from the beginning. We're not backing away. This is different. No candidate elevated this movement. This was a bottom-up. This was Abbas, this was Layla, this was Waleed, this was activists across the country who said, we're not taking it. And part of recognition of that is that we're having a forum. A recognized forum. I've been to a lot of the forums since this day has begun. You know, I've been to a number of these sessions. This is the largest audience I've seen for any one of them.
That was James Zogby, the former longtime executive member of the Democratic.
Yes, indeed. And that underscores my point. When the three of you mounted that protest in the back of the main hall with the banner, one of the things that I replayed the video, I think 3 times, just to kind of focus in on was the response of the folk all around you. Now, while there were voices of support for what you were doing, the overwhelming voice was one of derision. It was one of opposition to what you were doing, and one in support of, what, the organizers of the convention wanted it to be. And for me, I wasn't surprised. This is what I expected. I was just wondering what the level of opposition to your protest might be. But it's a reflection of the work that we have to do among the grassroots. It's a reflection of how much work needs to be done among the masses, not only around the issues of occupied Palestine, but other hot button issues affecting our community as well. We have a lot of work to do. With that being said, the point that James Zogby made about this unprecedented moment at the DNC, where, for the first time, the voice of Palestinian struggle and suffering was able to be heard, and able to be heard as a result of the kind of activism that came from the bottom up, from the ground, not someone of a prominent personality like Jesse Jackson or some other prominent person, just using their influence to raise the issue or to allow the issue to be raised. This was something that came out of activism, out of struggle among the grassroots, and this is something that you all can be proud of. I'm certainly proud of you. I am proud of all of the young people and the older folk who have been in the streets in the thousands, in the tens of thousands, all over the United States, in demonstrations after demonstrations, the encampments at universities. I'm just, all of this has cumulatively made a significant difference in the way this issue is now being discussed in the public square. And so again, having that forum on the inside, and according to Zogby and a couple of others, it being the largest forum outside of the main session at the DNC, that is an accomplishment. With that being said, brother and sister, we have just a few minutes left. I'd like to give both of you 2 minutes each to just share whatever final thoughts you'd like to share with the viewing and listening audience on this very important topic, because the struggle must continue. Sister Nadia.
Yeah, I just wanted to really thank the media, especially the media that covered our story, because without that, we would have been in a lot of trouble, like probably more physical trouble as well. And so I think that gave us a lot of protection. And it's really the First Amendment is what we're fighting for. Right. It's about, being able to say what is needed to be said. And it's about being able to get that available and across platforms. And so that's what I'm really grateful for. And I think that, people should continue to just speak up.
I would like to very quickly, like the last thought I would like to share is a comment on the last video that we've seen, and it says they have been fighting to have a panel discussion, not even on the convention stage, but just a sideline discussion, just the discussion since 1984. That's before than I was born. And so my whole entire lifetime, we've just been fighting just to have a sideline discussion. And almost 40 years later, we finally had a panel that will raise the word Palestinians in it. So that tells you how willing or how slow the Democratic Party is able to move on this issue. And it's significant because this is the party that raises the flag of diversity and inclusion and a big tent for everybody. It took them 40 years just to have a sideline discussion on the Palestinian issue. And alhamdulillah, that came from a grassroots organizing. So if it's even we didn't have that massive push from every person who believes in this issue, we wouldn't even have that discussion after 40 years of fighting. So it's an eye-opening fact to realize, and does nothing to me more than strongly and firmly, even more every day, believing in our grassroots efforts and our grassroots organizing, and being very loud in telling the Democratic Party that we will not rest until you hear us and make a significant radical change. And a sideline discussion is not going to be enough anymore. And it's not going to take 40 years.
I agree. And, one of the thoughts, one of the memorable historic quotes that came to mind for me, reflecting upon what you all did, what the activists that were there did from start to finish, coupled with the rhetoric that came across the main stage from, persons like the Obamas and Clinton and of course, the vice president, who may soon become the first female president of the United States. The rhetoric was beautiful, but it was rather hollow against the backdrop of the realities of what we're dealing with. And again, so it brought to mind one of the quotes that you can read on the wall of the Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C., in the nation's capital. A quote from one of his many writings. It reads, "I tremble for my country. When I reflect, God is just. His justice cannot sleep forever." I thought about that quote, and against the reminder that if this country is to be saved, if this country is to be redeemed, and if it has any chance of really living up to the better part of itself and becoming that land, that fabled land of liberty and justice for all, which it has yet to become, it must be through the prism of struggle, the kind of struggle that you all have engaged in around this issue of Palestinian rights, and the kind of struggle that we must all engage in order to help this country live up to the better part of itself. So again, I encourage you to remain optimistic and to remain determined, and inshallah ta'ala, with faith and determination, positive change will come about. It's just a matter of time. So, brother and sister, I want to thank you both for being with us today. And inshallah ta'ala, we're going to have you back for some more political and socio-political conversation. Until then, May Allah Ta'ala keep you safe and bless the remainder of your day. Assalamu alaikum to you both. Now, I want to conclude today's presentation before I close out the way that we normally do, with a message to our brothers and sisters in the Southwest, and specifically our brothers and sisters in Texas. I'm about to leave for Texas. I'll be there for the ISNA convention, and inshallah ta'ala, for some days leading up to the ISNA convention, for the purpose of getting around to different centers and talking about a political prisoner that is right in your backyard, our sister in Islam, Dr. Afia Siddiqui. Recently, Afia was attacked again, and she ended up being attacked, verbally attacked again, through the chairman of the board of the Afia Foundation, Brother Ayman Nasser, who was basically forced off of a commission, a human rights commission, ironically, simply because some Zionists who are known for their venom took issue with the fact that after forcing the director of the Maryland, the head of the Maryland chapter of CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, after forcing her off the board because of her quote unquote anti-Semitic indiscretions, they took aim at Brother Ayman Nasser for his alleged anti-Semitic indiscretions. And unfortunately, subhanAllah, brother, under pressure, under, advice, bad advice, in my opinion, and pressure, he decided to throw in the towel and allow them to take him off before he was even seated. But during that campaign of vilification, they were attacking Afia Siddiqui because of him being the chairman of the board of the Afia Foundation and our advocacy for our sisters' freedom. So this is another in-your-face challenge to Muslims everywhere, but especially in Texas, where our sister is being held, where she is wrongfully and brutally imprisoned. So inshallah ta'ala, we want to be able to come and have discussions about Afia and what we can do to help her. These issues are related. They're connected. What's happening to our brothers and sisters in occupied Palestine is connected to what has happened and is happening to a host of Muslim political prisoners here in the United States, with Afia Siddiqui being right at the top of the list, in our opinion, because of her being a sister, and a sister who was known for her dawah, who was known for her humanitarian relief work, and who became a target as a student, as a foreign exchange student, because of it. So inshallah ta'ala, we want to be able to show a documentary that our sisters in the UK produced, a short documentary on Afia telling her story, and then have some discussion around what we can do to help our sister in Islam regain her freedom and repatriation back to her family where she belongs. So with that being said, I'll close as we normally do. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal Asr. Innal insana lafi kusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amalus salihat. Wa tawassaw bil haqq. Wa tawassaw bis sabr. Which means, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the token of time, through the ages, surely humanity is in loss, except those who believe and do good, and exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patiently persevere. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.